Welcome everyone and bienvenue to this S&D press conference for the plenary session of this month. It's my pleasure to hand over to our group president, Iratxe García Perez. Iratxe.
Good morning, everybody. Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. I do hope that you've been able to enjoy your holidays and go back to work under almost normal conditions, which wasn't the case last year. But here at European Parliament, we're doing our utmost in order to normalize things. And I hope we can rely on all of you and go back to normal. We're having a plenary session, which is important for Europe, because the agenda is marked by the debate on the State of the Union, and you know well what is the work that our group has done to have an impact on the Commission's agenda. So we're starting the legislature so that we have a political impact on the Commission's agenda. And this is indeed a very important moment. The health crisis has really marked the last 2 years, during which we wanted to take up some very important challenges. But starting from now, it is a decisive moment, and we can perhaps see whether Europe has taken advantage in a way of this crisis to move forward on certain challenges. So the last week, our group sent to Mrs. von der Leyen and Mr. Šefčovič what our priorities are, because we want that this agenda to really take on these proposals. And so law against poverty, so that the digital transition will guarantee the workers' rights. For example, Uber workers are employees and not self-employed people, as the company alleges or pretends. And I think that it is very important for us to be able to work on that. Amongst our priorities, we have the law on biodiversity, natural disasters that have occurred during the summer, floods, as you know, in Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands, and the forest fires that have affected Greece, Italy, and Spain clearly show that there is a very clear link between climate change and all these natural disasters. And the law on biodiversity is absolutely fundamental, and we, the socialists, are really going to move forward on that. Then we think that we need to have a European directive on domestic violence, on legal migration and asylum. What happened in Afghanistan in the last month, we show that we were right, namely that we need a very strong migration policy in Europe, because we need solidarity amongst member states and solidarity vis-à-vis those people who have to flee their countries for economic reasons or because of violations of fundamental rights. But we need to have also a mechanism to protect democracy, the rule of law in Europe. We are going to focus on all this tomorrow during the debate. because we want clear commitments on the part of the president. In this session this afternoon, we're going to have a debate on Afghanistan. This is extremely worrisome because what we feared is already happening. There is the economic collapse that is creating a humanitarian crisis, and the Union must act on that. Civilians, the most vulnerable ones, are going to go on the path to illegal migration. So we need to have humanitarian corridors. And we also make sure that help and aid does actually reach those people who today are at risk of their life, because they have helped the European Union. So we need to have humanitarian corridors to help out. And what we think is very important, that there should be a clause that should talk about the protection of the rights of women. Violation of women's rights in Afghanistan is something which can really disappear. It's like the rights of women are really at risk, and our group is going to emphasize that. There are other important issues. The platform workers, yesterday there was a debate in plenary, and tomorrow we're going to have a vote on the report. For example, people who bring us food at home, who have no social security, have no holidays, and we really need concrete proposals in order to protect the rights of these people, because the work environment has greatly changed. It's got nothing to do with the working environment in 3 decades ago. So these are essential workers, and we have to regulate their rights and ensure their rights, protect their rights. What is also important is the freedom of the press and the rule of law in Poland. Once again, we're going to talk about Poland. The rule of law and democracy is deteriorating. There is the ex-TVN law that is going to be enacted, and the Constitutional Tribunal of Poland is not doing what it should be doing as a tribunal of a European Union state. So all are these issues that are going to be dealt with on the agenda of this session. And I would like to ask you whether you have any questions.
Gracias. The first hand, Griselda.
Merci. Griselda Pastor, de la Radio Española SER. ¿Qué es lo que tiene que decir?
Mrs. von der Leyen is going to say something about the tax reform. So is the Commission going to maintain its recovery fund? What do you hope she will say about all that?
Se ha demostrado
It has clearly been demonstrated that austerity is not the solution to this crisis. Crisis that has affected all of Europe. The 2008 crisis was resolved with austerity, and the results were extremely nefarious because there were greater imbalances, greater difficulties. So those who had a great deal had more, and when the crisis ended, those who had less had even less than that. So this was clearly demonstrated that it was not the solution. Austerity is not the solution. And then there was the recovery plan that was instituted, and the socialists we are fully aware that we need to move forward. We need to revise the economic policy in Europe. There are many instruments that could be established based on solidarity, and also we should have policies that should take on board the great challenges. We need to transform, we need an economic and industrial transformation, and we need instruments to achieve that in the economic field. So we are going to ask for that when we're going to broach this debate. We have to act with daring, with courage, and we have to act because of the COVID crisis, and we have to carry on that path.
Are there other questions? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Microphone, please.
Does it work? Yes, okay. Giuseppe Laudani, ANSA News Agency, Italy. If I may, I would like to ask you, you know that there was a deal which was signed between the EPP and the Socialist and Renew concerning the new presidency of the European Parliament that you're going to vote next year on January. Are you going to respect this deal as the EPP is asking you? This is the first question. And if I may, can I ask you a second question concerning the eventual use of the Green Deal here inside the European Union? Yesterday there was a meeting of the Bureau of the Vice Presidents. I just wanted to know which is the state of play. Thank you very much indeed. Grazie.
Bueno, con respecto al...
With regard to the Green Deal, today we're going to have a debate in the plenary on the Fit 55 package. I don't know what we're going to call it, maybe Fit for Climate or something, but because our citizens must understand what it really means, so Fit for Climate would be better. It's an ambitious initiative which has put on paper the great challenges that we are confronted, how to fight climate change, and now we have to decide how to achieve that. This legislative package is extremely complex, which deals with environmental issues, but also the transformation of our industrial model, our energy model, transport in the European Union. So we're fully aware of the complexity of all this. So we welcome this package, and we said that we are going to work so that we can achieve all these objectives. And we as a group and as Parliament, we have to adopt a consistent, coherent position. So this is a very complex legislative package, and we have to see how all these directives are going to influence things. But we as a group must ensure that the green transition must guarantee social justice at the same time. Those who are the most vulnerable, who have the most needs, are not the ones who have to foot the bill of this policy. So we are firmly convinced by that. So that the social dimension must be taken into account. The fund for transition fund is fundamental. Then we will have to look at the criteria, the amounts, but we must make sure that the most vulnerable, the most needy will not be the ones who will be footing the bill, because otherwise this will not be a just transition. Now, with regard to the medium term, I'm sure that this question is shared by many of you, and I will try to be very clear. First of all, last week, we heard Manfred Weber, who announced that he will not stand to preside over Parliament. And now there's an internal process in the EPP. Now, EPP will decide its strategy, but the EPP is not going to decide on the timetable of the socialist group. Our group, at the moment, wants to work on the policies that are on our table. We are the only group that has been working on the State of the Union and which has said what its priorities are. Now, we want to act, or we are worried about the concerns of our citizens. So if we want to have a strategy to take a decision with regard to the second part of the legislature, we will do it as we've always said. We will talk with all the European political forces because we are responsible. We shouldn't talk simply about jobs and tasks. We're going to talk about the names, of course. It's important that we should agree, but we also meet the concerns of our citizens. So when we decide something, we will inform you. But at the moment, we're not yet dealing with that.
Are there further questions? David, please, and then we go.
Thank you very much. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. It's a follow-up on this issue of the next term, because the question of my colleague was clear. Are you going to respect the deal that the S&D group signed at the beginning of this mandate with the EPP and Renew, and which foresee that the EPP will have the presidency of the Parliament in the second part of the term? Thank you.
Insisto.
I would like to stress it once again today. We have other priorities. With regard to the agreement, we will see what are the circumstances. I mean, things change a great deal in Europe. If you think that the political situation in Europe today is the same as 2.5 years ago, the situation has greatly evolved. Politicians change. This doesn't mean that the decisions that were taken apply. But we need to evaluate many questions. But of course, we have to maintain cooperation amongst the political forces within Europe. We are aware of that, and the socialist group is ready to take a decision with regard of the sharing out of responsibilities within the European Parliament. Thank you.
The left, please, and then afterwards here.
Yes, good morning, Angela Mauro of Post Italy. There is a discussion on the Green Pass, on the opportunity to make it compulsory to come here at the Parliament. What's the position of S&D? Thanks.
Bueno, nuestro grupo.
Our group will start now discussing this issue within our group, because up to now we haven't discussed it. It wasn't necessary before to have this discussion, but now we're starting this debate. In the Bureau of Parliament, this was raised yesterday, and some suggestions have been made. So this week we're going to have a meeting of the Bureau with the heads of delegations. You know that there are different positions with regard to the Green Pass. It's very important for us to have the legal opinion, the legal services opinion. We may be positive on this, but first of all, before any decision is taken, is to take into account of the legal service opinion. And with that, we can certainly support what they decide. And therefore, we need to have all the necessary arguments on the table before we take a definitive decision. At any rate, our objective is to go back to normal, but providing all the health guarantees. So we'll see.
Go here now and then afterwards, Lara. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Hassan Khidi. I work for Al Arabiya News Channel. I have a question on Lebanon. So, is it okay? So my question is on Lebanon. As you know, the government is just recently has been formed. How the EU can help Lebanon to go out of this crisis? Thank you.
Seguramente.
Indeed, you must know that our political group sent a delegation to Lebanon last week. Of course, we're very concerned with the situation there, and the European Union must determine how it can help to Lebanon to come back to a democratic situation. We can't abandon Lebanon when it's undergoing such a severe crisis. The Lebanese people want to live in peace and get rid of corruption, and the best way is to have a transparent parliament for 2022. That is our position. It's a good news that a new government has been formed after a year and a half of negotiations. We hope that the best thing is to give the voice to the people through parliamentarian elections. And our group were there to help. And we have this on our agenda because we should have not only our group's position on this, but the whole of Parliament. Thank you.
Buenos días, Galavotti de la agencia de prensa ADN Cronos Italiano.
I'm sorry to stress this point, but could you tell us whether David Sassoli could be re-elected President of the European Parliament or not?
Me preocupen por insistir.
Thank you. No, you can repeat the questions. You're doing your job. David Sassoli was an extraordinary president of European Parliament. He had to deal with an extraordinary situation in this last 2 years of his term, and he was the spokesperson of what Parliament was and is. And with regard to the future, we're not talking about the future of a person, but we're talking about the future of an institution and how the socialist group can ensure the future of this institution. So when we will broach this debate, we will bear all this in mind. But once again, may I stress, it is important to think about the institution and not talk about people or persons. The EPP will have to resolve and have resolved its position and decided on its position. But this doesn't preclude the fact that I think that what our president has done so far has been excellent. Thank you.
More questions. We start with Lara and then we go to the left. And then I think at some stage we have to close. Thank you, Lara.
Hola, buenos días. Laura de la
Laura of Agency EFE. One more question on the presidency. You say that you are ready to take a decision within the group. Do you have a timetable? Are you talking about October, November, or will you take a decision before Christmas? And a second question on the compulsory green pass or health pass. Will you how will the decision be taken? As you as president of the group, well, says the president, we had a discussion in the bureau yesterday, and we decided to have a discussion. So we hope the legal services will give us an opinion as rapidly as possible. We're waiting for that. With regard to the timetable, we don't have a fixed timetable. Of course, before Christmas, we should have a decision, first as a group and then in negotiation with other political groups. We're fully aware of the fact that whatever decision is taken, we have to bear in mind what alliances are necessary to take a decision. And another thing which is important for me, of course, our group will take a decision. The MEPs will vote on that, but as a political family, we need to discuss things also with other political groups who are close to us. So it will be a debate, not only as a political group, but as a political family. So we will be having these discussions and meetings. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días, gracias. Andrés.
Andrés.es. I wanted to ask you the impact that the German elections would have on this debate. The EPP family is the one which is governing one of the 4 large countries of the European Union, and for the socialist family would only have one post, that is a foreign policy with Borrell. So would you ask for more, depending on the outcome of the German elections in the year to come? As I already said before, in answer to other questions, the political situations do change. So you may take a decision at a certain point in time, but then there is another political reality or another political balance which emerges. So we are not going to take a decision on the basis of the election results in one country, though Germany is extremely important as a country. We can't take a decision on the basis of that. We're talking about the political family in Europe and how we're going to broach the future as a political family. So once again, may I stress, there are different factors that will have an influence on our decisions, and political balances are one of those factors.
A question, and then we have to close. Please, in the back.
Anna Vandensky from Europe Diplomatic. I have, again, the question to conclude on the President of the Parliament, because your group should have a position. So you support the principle of rotation, yes or no? Because that's the essence of the debate. Do you support the very principle that the presidents should rotate?
Bueno, pues voy a insistir en...
I will repeat what I have said throughout the morning. We think that what is important for the future of the institution is to put on the table the agreements that we have reached with other political forces. This is very important. We need to have agreements with other political forces, agreements that may be broadened, enlarged, and then we will do what is best for the institution and for what European Parliament represents and what the citizens of Europe need. At the moment, we don't want to put names on the table. at the moment, we don't know who are going to be the candidates, who's going to stand. And so to take a decision with regard to this, when a process is going to be opened in one political group, they haven't even decided who the candidate is. So there are many unknown factors. Last week, a process was started within the EPP to decide who the candidate will be, because we are told that the one who was supposed to stand is not going to stand. So we're going to support someone whom we don't know. I don't think that seems logical to me. So the EPP has an internal process. I cannot take a position on what the EPP is going to decide. It would be irresponsible on my part to say anything about that. So one has to follow the timetable. Once we have the candidates, when we know the names, when we know what the reality is, then I will be able to say more. But now I can't.
Iratxe, thank you all for joining us. Wishing you a good week, and we'll be in touch. Merci. Muchas gracias.